Welcome to the fifth episode of the AddVANCEO Podcast.
It is great to be back.
In this deep dive, we are focusing on psychological safety. And I have to be honest, right off the bat, I think this term is, it's in danger of becoming a bit of a buzzword.
It is, yeah.
You see it everywhere, you hear it in seminars, and, frankly, I think a lot of leaders, they sort of roll their eyes. They think it's about feelings.
That's the most common misconception. And it's also the most dangerous one.
Yeah.
People hear safety, and they immediately think comfort.
Right.
They think it means a permissive culture, lowering standards, avoiding conflict.
Yeah.
But if you actually look at the research, the seminal work by Amy Edmondson or papers like Renita Crandon-Duncan's,
Yeah.
it's not the soft option. It's actually the harder path.
So just to be super clear for everyone listening, we are not talking about singing Kumbaya around a campfire here.
Absolutely not. We're talking about psychological safety as a foundational condition for trust, for learning, and for sustainable performance.
Oh.
And creating that environment, it's one of the most demanding leadership responsibilities there is.
So let's set the mission for today. We want to explore what this truly means, why it's essential, not just nice, but essential, and how it directly impacts the bottom line. Engagement, accountability, all of it.
Exactly. And we have to start by defining it properly. The Duncan paper cites a definition that I think clears up the confusion almost immediately.
Okay, what is it?
It defines it as a shared belief that the team environment is safe for interpersonal risk-taking.
Interpersonal risk-taking. That's an interesting phrase. It shifts the focus from safety to risk.
That's the key. In a workplace, we're constantly calculating risk. If I ask this question, I'm going to look stupid.
Yeah.
Or point out this little error while I get my head bitten off. Psychological safety is just the shared belief that the answer to those questions is no, you'll be okay.
So it's about removing that fear of social consequences.
Precisely. But here's the nuance that people miss, and this is so crucial. The sources explicitly state this does not mean the absence of accountability.
It's not uncritical positivity.
No. You can have incredibly high psychological safety and still have really heated debates. In fact, you should have them.
That makes sense. If I feel safe, I'm actually more likely to tell you I think your idea has a huge flaw.
Yes.
If I don't feel safe, I'll just smile and nod and, watch the project drive off a cliff.
That is the difference between comfort and safety. A comfortable team avoids conflict. A safe team is candid. The research really breaks this down into three core pillars.
Okay, let's walk through them.
First is permission to speak. Do people feel authorized to express their ideas or their doubts? It sounds so simple, but in many hierarchies, people feel like they need a certain rank to have an opinion.
Right, I'm just the junior analyst, I shouldn't say anything feeling.
Exactly. The second pillar is a respectful response. So when you do speak up, are you met with curiosity or are you met with immediate judgment? And the third, which is maybe the most important, is a learning orientation. This means treating mistakes as data.
Not as personal failures.
Not as personal failures, as information the whole team needs to process.
Mistakes as data. I want to put a pin in that because it feels like a real pivot point. But before that, you mentioned something called the silence paradox.
Yes, and this is one of the most dangerous traps for leaders.
The idea being that in a lot of organizations, silence gets interpreted as agreement.
Oh, all the time. The leader pitches a new strategy, looks around the room, asks any issues, and nobody says a word.
And they walk out thinking, great, everyone is on board, we are aligned.
But in reality, that silence is often just fear. It's a screaming indicator of low psychological safety. People are doing that risk calculation we just talked about.
Speaking up has high risk and zero reward, so I'll just keep my mouth shut.
Precisely. So the leader thinks they have consensus, but what they really have is a room full of people waiting for it all to go wrong.
Which is why you say it doesn't eliminate tension, it just makes it usable.
It puts the tension on the table where you can actually deal with it. Without safety, that tension is still there. It's just buried until it explodes.
Okay, so that's the definition. It's not about being soft, it's about enabling candor. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Some leaders will say, look, fear is a motivator. I need my team to hit their KPIs, not feel safe.
And this is where we have to look at the data. We have to talk about Google's Project Aristotle.
Yeah.
It's probably the most famous study in this field for a very good reason.
I love this story. Google, being Google, decided to use massive amounts of data to find the perfect algorithm for a team.
Right. They spent 2 years studying 180 of their own teams, and they went in thinking the secret sauce was in the who. Maybe we need a team of PhDs. Or maybe it's the right mix of introverts and extroverts.
They were looking for the dream roster, like fantasy football for coding.
Exactly. And the results were frustrating for them at first because they couldn't find a pattern based on personality or skills. You had teams of geniuses that were failing.
And teams of average performers that were just crushing it.
Yes. But then they found the one variable that stood out above everything else.
It wasn't IQ, was it?
No.
Hmm.
The number one predictor of high performance was psychological safety. It outweighed everything else. Individual intelligence, the structure of the team, everything.
That is just, it's profound. You can have the smartest people in the building, but if they don't feel safe to say, hey, wait, I think we missed something, that collective intelligence is just useless.
It's blocked. Your brain actually goes into self-protection mode. You stop looking for solutions, and you start looking for escape routes. And the Accenture data in the Duncan source, it backs this up. Companies with high psychological safety report 76% more employee engagement.
76%.
And 50% higher productivity.
50%. That is a staggering number. That's not a marginal gain.
It's transformative. And you can see why. Teams identify risks earlier. Innovation goes up because people aren't afraid to suggest a wild idea. Feedback becomes constructive, not an attack.
And accountability actually strengthens.
It does. Because people take responsibility when they don't have to waste all their energy protecting themselves.
It's a worry tax. If I have to spend 20% of my mental energy just crafting an email because I'm terrified of how it will be interpreted.
That's energy not going into the actual work.
Exactly. But what about the idea of high performance without safety? I'm sure there are tyrant bosses who get results. You called it a ticking clock.
For a while, yes. You can drive a team through fear for a short period. You might hit a quarterly target. But it's rarely sustainable because errors are being hidden.
Small cracks in the dam.
Nobody reports them. Initiative declines. Your top talent just burns out and leaves. Psychological safety isn't the opposite of performance. It's what allows performance to endure.
Let's make this really visual. I want to dig into the case studies from Amy Edmondson's field research. She went into a company, Office Design Incorporated, and the contrast between two teams, the STAIN team and the publications team. It says it all.
It's a perfect A/B test of culture.
So let's start with the STAIN team, a production team on a factory floor. And there's this one story about a team member named Margie.
Right. So Margie is working the line, and she makes a mistake. She gets some drips on a part. No, pause there. In a low-safety environment, what's your first instinct?
Hide it. Wipe it off, push it down the line, hope nobody notices.
Self-preservation. But Margie didn't do that. She immediately told the next person on the line. She just said, hey, I got drips on this.
And the reaction?
Her colleague said, thanks for telling me, and they fixed it together. They viewed the mistake as an operational problem to be solved, not a personnel problem to be punished.
Because they had that learning orientation.
Yes. They caught the error before it left the factory. Now, contrast that with the publications team in the exact same company.
Completely different world.
Totally. This team's leader just did not want to hear bad news. One person is quoted as saying, people get put down for being different.
That's chilling.
It is. It creates a survival culture. Instead of focusing on making great brochures, they focused on coping strategies, hiding mistakes, planning their exit strategies.
And this leads to the most fascinating twist in the research. When Edmondson first looked at the data, didn't she find that the high safety teams, the good teams, actually reported more errors?
She did. And she almost killed the study. She thought, wait, my hypothesis is wrong. The good teams are screwing up more often.
A researcher's nightmare.
But then she realized they weren't making more errors. They were reporting more errors. The low safety teams were making just as many mistakes. They were just hiding them.
That is such a critical distinction. If you're judging your team on reported errors, you might just be rewarding the people who are best at lying to you.
Precisely. You are incentivizing silence. The problems don't stop. The messages just stop coming.
Which brings us to the threats. It feels so fragile. You can spend a year building trust, and one bad meeting can just blow it all up.
It is incredibly fragile, hard to build, so easy to break.
Okay, so what are the common threats? Public humiliation is the obvious one.
The nuclear option. You scream at someone in a meeting, you silence the entire room for 6 months. But there are subtler things. Dismissing ideas too quickly, being inconsistent, Dr. Jekyll one day and Mr. Hyde the next.
The Duncan paper also mentions leadership silence, the black hole.
Yes. When leaders don't respond to input, People just assume it's unsafe or, useless to speak up.
And unclear expectations is another. If I don't know where the boundaries are, I'm just going to play it safe and do nothing.
Right. And then there's the blame game. The Edmondson Hospital study is a perfect example. In one unit, the nurse manager made it clear, mistakes are serious, but you are never afraid to tell me. In the other unit, the nurses said, you get put on trial. People get blamed.
And the outcome?
The team that feared blame hid medication errors in a hospital. The SAFE team reported the errors, they fixed the system, and they actually saved lives.
So let's get practical. If I'm a leader, or even just a team member, how do I actually build this? It's not just be nicer.
No, these are actionable, tactical behaviors. The first one is to model vulnerability.
Which is really hard for leaders who think they need to be the smartest person in the room.
It is. But you have to flip that script. The research suggests using a specific phrase, I may miss something, I need your input.
I may miss something.
When a leader admits they don't know everything, it signals that learning is valued over perfection. It normalizes fallibility.
It invites people in.
Second, respond before evaluating. This is about impulse control. Someone throws out an idea you think is wrong. Your instinct is to say, that won't work.
Right.
Instead, you acknowledge the contribution first. Say, thanks for bringing that up. Let's look at it. You're rewarding the act of speaking up, even if you disagree with the content.
You're protecting the messenger.
Exactly. Which leads to normalizing dissent, treating disagreement as information, not disloyalty. If someone challenges you, your reaction has to be curiosity. Tell me more about why you see it that way.
The sources also mention just culture. This seems crucial for drawing that line between safe and permissive.
It's vital. A just culture distinguishes between honest human error and willful negligence. If you make a mistake while trying your best, you are never punished for it, especially if you report it. But if you sabotage something or repeatedly ignore protocols, that's different.
So accountability is still there.
Absolutely. And finally, closing the loop. If you ask for input, you have to explain what was done with it. Even if the answer is no, telling the team why shows respect.
These really don't sound like soft skills.
They're not. They are acts of leadership maturity.
So how does this all integrate into the AddVANCEO model?
Well, at AddVANCEO, we see psychological safety as a precondition for sustainable development. It supports all three dimensions of the model. First, it clarifies reality. It allows honest information to surface so the organization knows what's actually happening.
You can't fix a problem you don't know about.
Exactly. Second, it strengthens engagement through trust. And third, it enabled courageous action because people take responsibility when they aren't wasting energy protecting themselves.
There's a great insight from Patrick Zacharis on this. He says safety isn't about removing pressure. It's about creating enough trust so that pressure leads to growth, not withdrawal.
That is the vital distinction. We're not removing the pressure to perform. We're creating the environment where that pressure can be channeled into solving problems, not hiding them.
It's the difference between I have to fix this so we win and I have to hide this so I don't lose.
That's it. That is the entire shift.
So to wrap this up, psychological safety isn't a mindset you just decide to have.
No, it is a daily practice, a practice of attention, consistency, and courage. Your reaction in that split second when bad news arrives, that defines the culture.
And the so what here is that when people feel safe to speak, teams evolve. They stop just executing and they start learning and adapting.
And in today's world, that ability to learn is the only sustainable competitive advantage. If your team is silent, you are flying blind.
Absolutely. We'll continue exploring these themes in future deep dives, but for now, I want to leave everyone with that thought. Is your team's silence agreement or is it fear?
A question worth asking.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the AddVANCEO Podcast. Speak to you soon.